Hi, and welcome back to Just Ask the Question. I am your host, Brian Karem. With me, state senator from Virginia, former city editor of a wonderful newspaper in Maryland, Danica Roem. Danica, it's always good to see you. How you
I'm
doing?
so excited that I get my third or fourth punch on my Just Ask the Question punch card so that I can get my free pastry.
That's
I've said the same thing to Kojo and Omni before on WMU, so we're really getting up there.
first drinks on me, baby. So we're
Excellent.
st- we're starting with no, we're not going to talk about Cash Patel yet. First thing and drinking. So let's talk about the Supreme Court of Virginia. Virginia voters approved of a change in districts for the coming midterm elections. The Supreme Court decided to kill it. I'd like for you to unpack exactly what that means for the voters in Virginia, and does it hurt them, help them? You tell me.
Okay, so I'll put on my I used to work for you hat and talk about things neutrally for a second, and then I'll give
Okay.
like opinions and such. So what this functionally means is that the existing lines that we've had for the 2022 and 2024 elections, those remain. And so, the number of congressional districts in Virginia is 11. And this means that in Northern Virginia, the districts will still be the ones that are currently represented by Don Beyer in the 8th district, which is Arlington, Alexandria, Eastern Fairfax. He might even have Falls Church. And then the 11th district, which is represented by James Walkinshaw, which is Fairfax City and large swath of Fairfax County. The 10th district, which is represented by my former seatmate, both in the House of Delegates and the State Senate, Suhas Subramanian. And that district is really anchored in Loudoun County, but it includes the entirety of my district, which is a 30 state Senate district. So that's Manassas Park, Western Prince William County. It's also got parts of Fairfax County as well. And it has Fauquier and Rappahannock. And then the 7th district, represented by Eugene Vindman, that is Eastern Prince William County, basically east of Hoadley Road, for lack of better words here. That's not a perfect descriptor, but whatever. And then it's got like King George, Stafford, Spotsylvania, Culpeper. It goes all the way out to get what is called the small sliver of Albemarle County, where it's just like 22 people or something. And then after that, the other representatives outside of Northern Virginia, in Southwest and in the Valley, you have two Republicans between Morgan Griffith, who was actually a former majority leader when he was in the House of Delegates many years ago, and then Ben Klein, who I actually served with for 1 year in the House of Delegates in 2018. So they represent the 9th and the 6th districts, respectively. The 9th is referred to as the Fighting 9th in Virginia. And then John McGuire, who was also elected with me in 2017 to the House, 23 to the State Senate. He represents the 5th district. He's the ultra MAGA person there. And then Jen McClellan represents the 4th. You got Bobby, and that's this 4th is basically Richmond, kind of a
How is
portion.
it divided? How is it divided right now, MAGA and non-MAGA?
Well, so you mean among the Republicans?
Well, let's talk about how it's divided overall.
Okay,
How many
so
Democrats,
currently
how many
the current
Republicans?
partisan makeup of the Virginia delegation is 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans. The 6 Democrats, you got the 4 from Northern Virginia I mentioned earlier, plus Jen McClellan and Bobby Scott. And Bobby Scott
And
represents
are all of those seats safe for Democrats?
all of those seats safe as they are currently drawn. No, the 7th district is competitive, and that's like if you were.
And the 7th district is
So
again.
the 7th district is Eugene Vindman. First term, he won that seat in 2024. He succeeded Abigail Spanberger, who left Congress to run for governor. She won. And then this 10th district, it would take a Republican wave to win it, but it is technically competitive.
So where do you see? So where do you see after the midterms, if you were to predict right
sure.
now?
So the main priorities, if you're Democrats right now, your biggest priorities for red to blue flips are going to be the 2nd district, which is anchored in Virginia Beach, the Eastern Shore, parts of Hampton Roads. That's represented by Jen Kagan. She served in the State Senate when I was in the House Delegates. And the 1st district, represented by Rob Whitman, that's Tidewater area. And then his district kind of makes this hook in suburban Richmond. So not Richmond itself, but it's got parts of Henrico and Chesterfield. And the reason that the D-Trip has actually put the 1st district as one of its target red or blue flips, even before we went through all the redistricting stuff and everything, was because of the vote numbers that have been coming out of Henrico and Chesterfield, where unlike the rest of Virginia in 2024, Chesterfield County, which is very populous, went bluer. That was not something that we were seeing
So
that
where do you
often
think the
playing
numbers
out.
will be with the current?
Right. So right now, that's going to be a dogfight race. And we've got, in my role, I was former executive director of Emerge Virginia until the end of last year. Now my current title with Emerge is regional training director. Basically, I've got a couple of Emerge alums who are running in that first district between Shannon Taylor, who's the sitting prosecutor, Commonwealth's attorney in Henrico County, as well as Erica Kopp. She's also an attorney who's running, also lives in Henrico. And so I think once the primaries are decided and everything, we're going to really see the most aggressive play that Democrats have made for the first district easily since the 90s, if not earlier than that. It's probably been a long time since they will have really made a play. So those are the first two. Then you have a former, so you're saying that, Brian, you got a former member of Congress in Tom Perriello running again in the 5th district against
Right.
John McGuire. It would take a perfect storm, but it was a perfect storm that elected Perriello in 2008 in the first place. And then you've got Beth Macy running in the 6th district against Ben Klein. She's the person who wrote Dope Sick, which was centered in part in Lee County and stuff, and told the story about, the Sackler family and all the prescription stuff. So she's very well known, in that community and up and down the valley. She's got some name recognition right now.
Give
And
me
then
the
there is
lead.
a
Give me the
Democratic
lead.
primary.
Give me the lead, Danica.
So the lead right now, two seats that are in toss-up category, the first and the second. Lean Republican would be the 5th. Likely Republican, but still, within a wave, the 6th district. And then the 9th district is very difficult. That's the fight in 9th. Whereas for the Democrats, the 7th district probably starts at like a tilt Democrat right now, with Eugene Vindman. Sue Westermanian, you would put that one somewhere between lean and likely Democratic, and then the rest of those would be safe Democratic.
So you think the Democrats will still come out with a majority?
We're going to still have a majority out of Virginia for sure. I have no doubts about it, as long as people actually do the work in the first place, which means knocking on doors, raising money, and actually doing all the things that candidates are supposed to do without taking a race for granted.
So what with the changes, you all were going to experience an expected 2 or 3 seat increase?
Well, basically, it was going to be 4 seats. It was,
4.
designed to be a 10-1 map, and the reason for that is the current Republican majority in the United States House of Representatives is because of North Carolina. North Carolina's existing gerrymander took a 7-7 map and flipped it so that Democrats lost 3 seats, and that had already happened. That's already in place. Now, North Carolina is coming for a 4th person in Don Davis, United States Representative from northeastern North Carolina. And oddly enough, Don Davis has the bill in Congress right now to end mid-decade redistricting. I am on record having said, pass that bill. Take away the ability of states to do this. It's not fun that Virginia was putting itself in the position to offset North Carolina after California had to offset Texas. But now, in the wake of the Supreme Court ruling, look what's happening across the Deep South right now.
Jim Crow take 2.
When you're looking at 12 Democratic districts, Democratic majority districts, which are centered on Black majority districts, being washed out here, then at what point do Democrats stop saying no, it would be very unnice for us to, do this. We need to, be the nice ones here. It's just like, hey, Maryland, step up. Hey, Illinois, Colorado, New York, all Washington, Oregon, time for y'all to get your heads in the game. Let's go, right? Because even when you look at California, they didn't even maximize the 52 seats that they could have, right? So I look at this and I go okay, what the Supreme Court did was, at the national level, absolute travesty for democracy. what the Supreme Court in Virginia did on a 4-3 ruling, which basically meant one swing judge. It could have gone either way. One person is who ultimately was, the deal breaker on this one, right?
Right.
It is not unprecedented in Virginia for the state Supreme Court to overturn a referendum. However, it hasn't been done with a statewide referendum before. And so that's the difference of what we're looking at here is we did have a majority of the voters, especially in my district, by the way. My district voted strongly for yes. And here's the thing, though, and Brian, I think you'll appreciate this. Now I'm going to take off my hat that I had from when I was news editor reporter. Now I'm going to put on the one that actually has opinions as a legislator. Democrats, stop wetting yourself and work hard this fall. That's what comes down to at this point. You don't get to tell us, oh God, we won't win anything now. When you look at Virginia, what we did in 2017, we flipped 15 seats, red to blue. 2017, 15 seats red to blue, when the Republicans had drawn that map to maximize their own gains. They had a 2-1 majority at the time, almost. It was 66-34 at the time. We tied in a 16th race, and that race came down to a fishbowl drawing in Newport News. And then there were 4 other races that were super close too.
That sounds like a band, by the way. Fishbowl drawing in Newport News, or a song. but
that's a drinking song, Brian.
Yes.
Have a good one.
So let me ask you this: with your opinion hat on, you're saying Democrats, belly up to the bar and do the work.
Yeah, that's right.
There are those who are saying that this decision by the Virginia Supreme Court could actually blow up in the face of the Republicans and benefit the Democrats.
Well, I've always said never underestimate the ability of the Democratic Party to kick itself square in the teeth, and I've also said the only saving grace of the Democratic Party is the Republican Party.
Yeah, that's
right. So it's going to depend. Are Democrats going to get stuck infighting and being really pissed off that they blew, over $100 million or whatever the number was, amount of money that was spent on this thing in the first place? Is that going to end up with a lot of finger pointing? Or are we going to regroup, have a lot of people who just voted yes, by the way, be really upset? And by the way, Brian, right before I logged on for this, the last email I saw in my Senate account was from a constituent who said to keep fighting on this. Okay, like last thing I saw right before I got on this interview.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, so it's just like, so my folks are still fired up, right? And so the question at that point is, okay, Democrats, what are you going to do about it now? Are we going to sulk and finger point and do all the other stuff? Are we going to accept this? We can condemn the ruling. We can say X, Y, and Z about why we don't like it. That's fine. Get your opinions out. It's the first day. We can feel our feelings. We have the weekend. And then basically come Monday, it's back to work. Let's go win some elections.
So that begs the question nationwide. I mean, with the decision from the U.S. Supreme Court, and, there are many saying this is Jim Crow take 2, that it's going to destroy civil rights, gutting the Voters' Rights Act in the South. Do you see, there are plenty of people, even former MAGA members, who aren't all that fond of Donald right now because of the war and because of Jeff Epstein and because of a bunch of other things. Do you think that nationwide this movement could blow up in the Republicans' face, or do you think that they are going to salvage it and keep the House of Representatives after the midterm?
It is, all right, putting reporter hat back on.
No, I want the opinion hat.
All right, well then I'm going to have a 2-brimmed hat here, Brian. And
okay.
If you want to put a little fan on the top and spin that, that's just fine.
You got it.
Okay, so, all right. So my Libra self, who's very balanced here, is going to say, on the one hand, historically speaking, by the numbers, even if they get through with redistricting the South, pretty much, and everything with that, history would suggest that there are still going to be so many Democrats who come out to vote this fall, disproportionate to the number of Republicans who come out to vote this fall, that Democrats should, in theory, mass enough of a wave to overcome. However, are you going to get the size of the majority that Democrats had coming out of the 2008 election after winning it in 2006? I'm old enough as a reporter turned legislator to have been first year out of college when the 2006 election covered. My very first assignment in 2006 was covering Jim Webb's primary victory against Harris Miller for U.S. Senate. When, by the way, at the time, I remember clear as day being in D.C., watching some talking heads at a National Press Club event where one of them laughed about Jim Webb's chance of winning that election that fall and said, oh, he's not going to like it when all that money from George Allen starts pouring in, and then Jim Webb won. Right. So I look at this with historical context here to say, yes, Democrats should still win this fall as long as they do the work and they don't just sit in the corner sucking their thumb being like, oh, it hurts that we lost in court. Like, yeah, of course it sucks. Everything this sucks right now.
Right now,
And
a
so
lot
you know what you
does,
gotta
and
do?
not in a pleasant way.
Deal with it. Get your head in the game and get back out there. That, like, I don't want to have to be team captain for like Virginia Democrats right now and being like, all right, guys, let's go. Everyone, come on. Like, let's get back out there and like, like let's go win some elections. We've got to stop sulking. And then second, away from that, I think this referendum also shows how it is possible for a whole lot of money to come together very quickly from a lot of donors into a race where they say, okay, it's a referendum. We are going to go all in on this. And they still have money to do whatever else afterward. Never mind the DNC's finances and all the other sort of stuff that we could talk about in a whole other episode. But what would be a really good expenditure for the same people cutting those checks? Investing in state legislatures nationwide. Because you know what happened in 2010 when Democrats were losing the Congress and everything? They lost more than 900 seats in state legislatures.
Yes.
We are still crawling out from that hole from 2010 because they wanted in a redistricting year. And because of that, Democrats got gerrymandered into oblivion in a bunch of other states. So what do? You knock on doors, make phone calls, send texts, do all the other modern campaigning things that you're supposed to do in order to get people to go out and vote. That's part of the deal.
What happens to the people that were running in the districts that had been created? Like, for example, Olivia Troy.
Right. Well, they're going to have to decide whether they want to, keep running for Congress this year in the lines that already existed, or if they're going to end their campaigns.
Wow. So with that being said, I believe Olivia was an outside shot in that district anyway. Would she
Brian,
be
if she was one of the candidates in the 7th, who I can't even keep up with because there were so many of them, it's just like, y'all, okay. Northern Virginia has such a deep bench of talent, which, hey, as a Northern Virginia, super cool thing. But it's just like, we've got to have, I'll be honest with you, Brian, we got to have ranked choice voting. That's like statewide.
We have to have what?
We need ranked choice voting statewide.
Yes.
We're starting to get it here and there. Like we've been passing some bills regarding ranked choice voting. We really need the statewide because right now you could have had a primary that has like 15 candidates or whatever, and someone wins it with 20% of the vote or 25 or whatever. That's not good. It's like you really need to show, just like they do in Alaska, they already have ranked choice voting, and Mary Patola came up on top the first time. She in the special election came out the second time, but then she lost. Okay, is what it is. And just so be it. But I would strongly support Virginia moving to a ranked choice system here because those primaries, too many candidates
we should have
with too little of a share of vote.
Think we should have that nationwide?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so how do you see, again, going back to the question, how do you see this decision by the U.S. Supreme Court affecting the fall?
By the U.S. Supreme Court affecting the fall, there's no question that it will work at the congressional district level to the Republicans' favor to some degree. The larger question is what happens across the South with statewide turnout. Are you going to have a lot of really pissed off Democrats who show up and actually vote and then make some big surprises? Like in North Carolina, for example, can Roy Cooper win big there and pull some people over the finish line, like at Don Davis, for example? That's a big question. Next, will Texas's map turn out to be a dummy mander? right? Will it be one
There are a lot of
where,
Democrats that might have a shot because of that gerrymandering in
right,
Texas.
right, like Bobby Padilla, for example,
Yeah.
there are examples of candidates right now who very well might win because of their maps.
So here's the question. If it works out and the
Just ask
Democrats,
the question, Brian.
yeah, I'm just going to ask this question. God damn it. So if it works out, if could could there be a method to the madness of the Supreme Court wherein it actually generates more voter participation and thus a better representation for the United
No,
States
to be clear, no, there's not a scenario in which the Supreme Court of the United States is ruling is actually good for,
for the United
like,
States. That's where I'm
no,
going.
no,
Yes.
there's no scenario in which that is a good thing. Like, just to be absolutely clear with this, the
That's what I want
question
you to
at
be.
that point is, at what point do you accept reality and you work and you fight and you make a better result so that you don't ever have to go through this crap again? That's what we have to do, is stay focused, stay in the game. Yes, it is okay to be upset, pissed off, and feel all your
Love
feelings.
that
We've already
message.
been over this. Do something. Work hard. Go win elections.
And I've been saying, you say it a little bit differently, but I agree with you. I mean, there are two parties in this country. One has no heart, one has no head. And the Democrats usually are headless. They will eat their own quicker than anybody. The Republicans are very heartless and will try anything to win. What I hear from Republicans is a lot of them will never vote Democrat, right? But they won't vote for they will not vote simply, and that's not a bad situation if
Okay, here's the
the
thing.
Democrats are active.
If you are a Democrat and your strategy is based on, we need Republicans to not vote in this election
You're
and that's going to
screwed.
be our way to win, then you might as well just walk your way into a door. What you
Thank you for
should be
saying that.
doing What you should be doing is saying, what do we need to do to get our people out to win? Number one, that's called base motivation. And then number two, what are we going to do to win the persuadable voter? What are we going to do on those two things? Now, every single day of this administration, while Donald Trump continues doing things that are beyond the pale, at the same time that happens, Democrats look at the price of gas right now, price of groceries, cost of living in general, and you think this is horrible for the people. And politically, if you look at those numbers and you look at his lack of approval and everything, and you can't win in that environment, I mean, like, just
What do you need, folks? I mean, well, and I also say you're going to have to do more than vote this fall. You've got to help get old people to, the elderly to vote. You need to be on phone trees. You need to, hey, volunteer at a precinct for the
you know
heck.
what you need to do? Subscribe to your local newspaper and save that paper, because if you have a news desert, then political charlatans are taking all of their bullshit and they're pushing it into people as if it's actual fact when it's not. And then you know what happens when you have people devoid of actual facts in their local community and local
Yes.
reporting and everything like that? Then it becomes the narrative of whoever has the loudest mouth controls what it is that you end up hearing. And when that happens, you have an uninformed citizenry that responds to people who are being the loudest in the room with disinformation and waging disinformation campaigns. Not running disinformation, waging disinformation campaigns, because they treat politics as war. People got to understand that there is a connection to all of this. And Brian, you literally wrote the book that says, go back to the 80s on this. Well, as soon as you see Reagan's deregulation of the entire media industry, what ends up happening? Direct line to today, 40 years later.
I've never loved you more, and I didn't pay you to say that.
I endorse this message.
All right, so let's. One of the last things we'll talk about: the FBI investigating a member of the of the Virginia a member of the
Senate.
Virginia state
The
government.
president pro tem, not just any member, the president pro tem, who's the Senate Finance and Appropriations chair, who's also the longest serving member of the Senate, who has been in office since 1992. And yeah, and basically what people should know is that, look what they tried to do with Letitia James, okay? Letitia James won. They tried to wreck her life in Virginia. It didn't work out. Trump tried to install a district attorney in Virginia who didn't work out. Trump kicked out the former Republican Speaker of the House of Delegates from not being MAG enough. I served with Todd Gilbert for 6 years. I'm not going to give you a Lloyd Benson speech about him, but what I will say, that's a deep cut, I know.
Yes, that is a deep cut.
Yeah, right. But what I will say, though, is if he's not conservative enough for you, I
Right?
don't know what to tell you, right? It was like apparently it was a whole dispute about whether he would keep someone, like one of his underlings employed or not, and he wanted to keep the person on. Administration didn't, and so well, here we are, right? We've watched this administration try to take legal action in various forms to people in Virginia, and then the administration lose in court, right? While I will defer to the statements that have already come out from Senator Lucas, from Senator Locke, from Senator Servo, from Representative Bobby Scott, among others, they definitely let them, let the leadership, speak for Senator Lucas on this, and not to mention herself being part of leadership. I would say that I'm pretty sure right now she's more interested and concerned about when we're going to, make a deal and get our budget out rather than, what's going to happen in court. And keep in mind, she hasn't been charged with anything yet.
And there you go. And I think that all you have to do is give Kash Patel a bottle of bourbon and you won't be investigated at all. But that's just me. That's and I won't ask you to comment. What I will ask you is okay, it's the end of November. Where do you see Virginia as far as legislative representation? Where do you see the country?
Well, for Virginia,
do you see a Democratic majority in Virginia? Do you see a Democratic majority in the House nationwide?
Yeah, I mean, for sure I do, with the same caveat I've said 40 times here, which is as long as Democrats do the work of actually turning out the voters, then yes, I think an 8-3 map absolutely in play, 9-2 not out of the question. And then wouldn't it be the irony of ironies if even under the existing map we got a 10-1 because every single Democrat in the entire Shenandoah Valley turned out, and
you think that's possible?
It's technically possible. Yes, there are the votes there. Dwayne Yancey's, who's a publisher for Cardinal News, he's broken it down in a column about how technically it is possible. Likely, difficult for sure, but I think it's also really important to acknowledge the work that those I-81 corridor Democrats do, because these are the diehards of the diehards who are in the heart of Trump country, and they show up, they work hard. And if you remember from the 2025 gubernatorial campaign, when now Governor Spanberger kept running those ads of the now former lieutenant governor saying, "I am speaking," over and over again, that was recorded at a Labor Day event in a small community off of 81. And it was because she had been riled up by the Democrats who were in the crowd. They got under her skin. And then Governor Spanberger's team got that on camera, and they ran an entire, they turned that into the narrative, and they won huge, right? So those I-81 Dems, I mean, they work really, really, really hard. I want to give them a big shout out. Big shout out to Lindley Thorne from Rural Ground Game especially. But what I think will happen, one, I certainly think Senator Mark Warner will win re-election in Virginia. Number two, I'd say 8-3 delegate, or 7-4 is sure. 8-3, quite possible. 9-2 could. 10-1 stretch, and then hey, credit to the two Dems for running in the fighting ninth too, just because it's really hard. But nationally, where does it go in November?
Yep.
If I have to put on my prognostication speculation hat that I had,
put on the prognostication hat.
Look, I am a Hotline alum. I wrote for the Hotline for 3.5 years, did this professionally. I still think Democrats have a chance to win majorities both in the United States Senate and the House of Representatives, as long as we don't trip over our own feet, which is not always our strength. Okay, so this is
I would say trip over something else, but yes, I'll go with you on that one.
We're saying feet, Brian.
Yeah,
feet is just fine.
And so, but here's the thing. You deal with, and you have been, and I know you well. I know you work your ass off. I know you talk to members of MAGA. I do too. I am, and I want to hear from you what you think. Do you think the strength of MAGA is, according to Donald Trump, stronger than ever, weaker than ever? Don't know, don't care. What do you think?
Well, I think if it was stronger than ever, then his approval ratings wouldn't be, the lowest that we've seen at this
Well,
stage for.
he has 100% approval among people who support him. Did you know that? That's what he
Okay,
said.
that's the political equivalent of Milhouse from The Simpsons saying, "Well, my mom thinks I'm cool." Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, the idea of saying, the people who support me approve of me. No shit. That's, but how many? So. Yeah, I'm with you on that. But do you think that it's, as a movement, it is on the wane? Do you think that there is something that can be done? And
no,
do you
well,
think
we're not going to have an answer to that until January of 2029, when hopefully there won't be another insurrection, or an insurrection attempt, I should say. But it's going to be what happens after this term. What happens afterward? That's going to be the answer, because if you see a jockeying of power and Trump Inc. no longer being the fundraising apparatus of the Republican Party, the organizing apparatus of the Republican Party, and everything else, then I think it could change. But right now, what's the incentive for anyone in the party to change it when they just saw 6 people who tried to defy the White House lose state Senate primaries in Indiana? They've seen people like Liz Cheney, who is one of the most conservative people ever,
right?
for so much. I mean, get chased out of the Republican Party. You've watched, person after person after person who tried to, from Kinzer to others who try to put down a flag here and say, "I'm not part of that part of the party. I'm this part of the party," and not watch
They
them
lose.
last long. Yeah,
But
right. So then,
privately,
what's the incentive structure for them to
there's the
moderate?
question. There's a question.
It doesn't.
Privately, a lot of people don't like him, the office holders, and privately they say a lot of things
Well,
that they
Chris
never
Christie
say.
said that about Lindsey Graham years
Yeah,
ago.
but publicly they stay with him because they don't see a personal. They don't see a personal benefit.
Okay,
Personal
Ryan, let me put
benefit
it this way.
in
Okay,
switching.
before Trump, when I went down to Richmond before I ran for office, there were 9 anti-LGBTQ bills that were up one year, and I talked to one of the Republican members in the House of Delegates who told me there was no incentive for him to support the defeat of these anti-bills because his own party would revolt and therefore he would get a primary challenge out of it. And
Yeah,
he was more concerned about his primary than the general election. Although, fun fact, that member then lost his general election the next year. That happened. So what I will say is that mindset of incumbents, you learn as soon as you get into political journalism that incumbents typically have a self-preservation motto as their number one objective. Come back,
yes.
right? And here's the line for it. Well, I can't do all the good things on X, Y, and Z if I lose re-election because I supported you on D, right? This is what they'll say, which is like, your thing isn't important enough to me and the things that I care about for me to want to put my neck out there for. And
And
so I'm just
mostly
going to
what
go
they
on and
care
get
about is
along.
themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
So no, so that mindset has been pervasive in our politics for a very long time, and I don't think it is one way or the other going to automatically change after the next presidential election. What will change is who is creating the incentive structure.
well, yeah. Well, there you go. As we end our time together, Danica, we always love having you around. We'll have you back. What do you
Thank
want to
you.
plug?
What do I want to plug? My book, Burn the Page, just turned 4 years old. So yeah, you should pick
Yahoo!
that up. Yeah.
Uh,
So that's out on audiobook, and I recorded it myself, ebook as well as print, because yeah, we love a good print book. So yeah, that's the first thing I definitely want to plug there. And second thing I want to plug here is just a reminder for Democrats right now in Virginia who are just going through whatever tailspin of, oh my God, we lost in court. Yes, we did. Yes, we lost in court. And you, all right, Brian, you come from the world of sports to whatever extent that is. I was a sports reporter for 10 and a half years while also being all the other types of reporter.
Weren't we
How
all?
many times do you see a team who takes a big loss, dust themselves off, and then they go back out and they go try to win the playoffs,
Yeah.
right? Now, this is more severe than that because that is a game. This deals with people's lives. But the mentality of I'm going to stay down and just pound my fists into the ground,
Never
unacceptable.
works.
No one has ever won a ring because they hit the dirt the hardest. like you have.
I'm stealing that.
Go for it. I just pulled that one up. So
I'm gonna quote you, but I'm gonna use it.
yeah, fair enough. But I think there's your teaser clip for this whole thing.
Yeah.
So, anyways, look, just get out there and go win an election, and just this would be Brian in your term, or the way that you put it is, which is stop bitching and go win.
Yeah, that's it. Quit your bitching. That's
the one.
There you go. Well, Danica, thanks. Love having you around. It's always a pleasure. You're always fun to talk to, and by God, one of the most common sense people in the legislature that I know. That's because you're a journalist.
God, that doesn't say very well for everyone, does it?
No, well, it's a low bar. I'll admit that. That said, this is Just Ask the Question. I'm your host, Brian Karem. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.